Women almost always think the same thing. He stopped texting. He became distant. He changed. So he must not care anymore. But sometimes that's not what happened at all. Sometimes an avoidant man doesn't leave because he stopped feeling. He leaves because the relationship started feeling emotionally unsafe, and that's exactly what makes him so difficult to understand. Because from the outside, it looks like indifference. Inside, it's usually something completely different. Why he felt so present at the beginning. The beginning feels almost magical. He's attentive, curious, consistent. He opens up more than you expected. He plans dates. He texts first. He remembers little things. And naturally, you believe you've met someone emotionally available. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. In the beginning, there are very few emotional expectations that no pressure. No obligations, don't know fear of disappointing someone. Everything feels light. An avoidant man usually enjoys connection. As long as that connection doesn't start demanding emotional vulnerability, he isn't comfortable giving. That's why the version of him you met wasn't fake. It was simply the version of him that felt emotionally free. The moment everything changes, a shift rarely happens overnight. It starts quietly. You ask where things are going. You naturally become closer. You expect consistency. You expect reassurance. Nothing unreasonable. But inside his nervous system, something changes. Closeness slowly begins to feel like responsibility. Responsibility starts feeling like pressure. Pressure feels like losing freedom, and instead of talking about it, he creates distance. Not always intentionally. Sometimes he doesn't even realize he's doing it. He answers later. Stops initiating. Becomes harder to read. You become more confused. The more confused you feel, the more clarity you naturally ask for. Ironically, that's often when he pulls back even more. The biggest mistake most women make. When someone suddenly becomes distant, our instinct is usually to move closer, to explain, to fix, to reassure, to ask more questions, to fight for the connection. There's nothing wrong with wanting answers. But with an avoidant partner, every attempt to reduce uncertainty can accidentally increase his emotional discomfort. He starts feeling watched, expected, responsible for your emotions. Even if that was never your intention, this creates a painful cycle. You move closer. He steps away. You move even closer. He disappears even further. Neither person is trying to hurt the other. They're simply protecting themselves in opposite ways. And that's why these relationships often feel exhausting. Not because love is missing, but because safety means completely different things to each person. The psychology nobody explains. Here's something surprising. Many avoidant men don't fear intimacy. They fear what intimacy eventually requires. Dependence. Expectation. Emotional responsibility. Conflict. The possibility of disappointing someone they care about. So instead of risking failure, they reduce closeness before closeness becomes overwhelming. From the outside, it looks cold. Inside, it's often anxiety wearing a mask that looks like independence. That doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but understanding the difference changes everything. Because once you stop interpreting distance as proof that you're not enough, you stop carrying pain that was never yours to carry. What emotionally secure women notice? Emotionally secure women notice something early. They don't only pay attention to chemistry. They watch for consistency. They notice whether difficult conversations lead somewhere. They notice whether distance becomes communication or silence, because attraction is easy. Consistency isn't. anyone can create butterflies. Not everyone can build emotional safety. And emotional safety is what determines whether love survives real life. Not excitement, not mystery. Not potential. Behavior. Repeated behavior. Ending. If you've ever loved someone with an avoidant attachment style, you probably spent a long time asking one question. What did I do wrong? Maybe nothing. Sometimes two people genuinely care about each other, but their nervous systems speak completely different emotional languages. Understanding that won't erase disappointment, but it can stop you from blaming yourself for someone else's emotional patterns. So here's something I'd love to know. Have you ever dated someone who became more distant the closer the relationship became? Or were you the one who needed space first? I'd really like to hear your perspective.